Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind Body Broadcast with Austin and Marty. And today we are going to get into some seriously juicy discussion about, I don't even know what we're calling this topic. We're calling it's psychology. We're going to talk about the psych side of things today. Maybe we'll come up with a catchy name
Yeah,
for it
well,
later when we name
let's
the
say
episode.
something along the lines of mindsets, what that means, what destructive mindsets are, what healthy mindsets are, and how to kind of navigate your way through all the ups and downs that your mind can give you while you're going on your fitness journey.
Yep, I like it. I can dig it.
Cool, man. Yeah. So obviously, this is one of the most popular topics you see out there. You'll see people saying you need that mindset, or you need this mindset, or like an off-season mindset, or a pre-contest mindset. And I see that bounced around enough, but I don't know if I see a lot of defining of this, or especially I know in the prep world, you'll see uh, people say that there is like a singular mindset, or that, like, your
Right.
mindset's the show.
Right.
Like, you keep your mind just on the show. Like, you can't be thinking about anything else, or things like that. And it's like, well, not only that, but if you think about nothing but the show per se, and regardless if you're novice or advanced, that potentially can be one of the worst things you do. Like, if you're 16 weeks, 12 weeks of just the show, this is breeds into exactly one of the topics that you said before we jumped on here, is the going so far into it with analysis by paralysis, and you will start to overthink everything. I know I've been there. Let's say you finish the gym session, you finish cardio, anything like that, or even during your day, it's like, oh, should I wait a little bit to have my water? Should I? Oh shoot, did I eat too soon before the work? And worst of all, let's say you start questioning the process too much as opposed to following the process. Not saying you shouldn't have questions for your coach or questions about the prep period, but if you start getting down too far that path, then doubt will set in, and then that mindset is something that's almost as hard to pull out as a sinking ship.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you said about singular mindsets because that's obviously an issue. It's that sometimes I have a problem online with certain questions, and that's kind of one of those questions where I just really hate to see people give out a generic answer just
Mm-hmm.
because we know that there isn't one, and that's why I think it's so important for people to that are coaching to have at least a basic understanding of psychology. You don't have to have a degree or anything like that, but you have to at least understand that everyone's going to respond different to different stimulus. And I'm not talking about physical stimulus. We know that. I'm talking about emotional and psychological stimulus. So we need to be able to our tone should reflect that as a coach. Our the way we approach things should reflect that. How we respond to them should reflect that. Like we can't expect everyone to respond differently. And I mean, hell, I've had people in prep that you tell them what to do, they do it. That's it. I mean, it's cut and dry. Like it's robot mode, and that's fine. If that's as long as that's truly how they are, and they're not like completely miserable or something in the background. Um, that's cool. And maybe they're like that all the time. Maybe that's just their personality. But somebody else is just not going to be like that, and we have to understand that they're going to respond a little bit differently.
I think that goes into being, we'll say, a great coach is being able to read not only the potential mindset of where the person is at, the mindset of what they've had before going into things. Like, for instance, how do they react to stressors? Does that throw off their mindset? And then, too, if you are surrounded by, or even friends or in cahoots with other competitors, talking to them about their mindset, that doesn't necessarily have to be yours either. And we can kind of see we'll call it a chameleon effect, right? When someone says, oh, for the last 4 weeks, or I've even heard to the extent of the last 8 to 10 weeks, you are going to feel miserable. You are going to hate this. So you better get ready for that. You better prep yourself for that. You better get your mind wrapped around that, and just that's some of the stuff that it's almost like you see the embittered competitors, or even embittered fitness people over the years saying, oh, well, you're never going to get there anyway, so only put in so much effort. Or then you have the complete flip of that, whereas people will say, this is all you should be doing, kind of like what I alluded to before about focusing on just the show. Well, then people will give it even more so, that to the point of, like, we'll say, neglect your kids, neglect your relationships, neglect your family, neglect your work. And then I will tell you, unless you are Phil Heath, if you neglect every single one of these relationships and endeavors and things like that, you will come out of the show, even if you come out as a winner, but did you really win? Because now you've got so many pieces to pick up. The mantra that's behind a lot of this is, you are gonna be grumpy, you are going to be this, and just it's destructive. And we talked last time about destructive eating patterns. This is destructive mind and emotion patterns, and just to keep fostering that or festering that and not being able to alter that, or to get, we'll say, not necessarily tips and tricks, but to get the boat floating towards the right direction again, that's not always the easiest. So we're going to try to tell you today some client stories and some what's worked for us about how to do, like, what is motivation? Does motivation work? What keeps you motivated? And what there's some potential ways to get around with the mindset. So, like, Austin, I'll actually ask you that is what do you try to do specifically for yourself, for your mindset, or what do you do to get your psychologicalness wrapped around both off season or pre-contest, or kind of whatever, man? What's kind of your thing you do?
Well, I think I might have even mentioned this in another episode, and, excuse me if I did, but I really treat them pretty similarly. And I think that's why I don't have a lot of issues with them. I just, I approach things the same. And maybe that's because, like I said, and I'm pretty sure I did say this in a previous episode, really the only thing changes is the amount of activity, probably going to do some cardio if you're in prep, maybe more, maybe less, and your nutrition. And like we said, you shouldn't be feeling substantially different emotionally and physically until maybe later in the prep. Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can possibly do, whether it's off season or prep, I guess for that matter, is expect to feel a certain way.
I love you said that. Yep. Keep going.
Because it's like a preconceived thing. Like, people have this preconceived notion that, oh my gosh, contest prep started. I'm like, you're 16 weeks out. Like, you don't feel different. I literally cut 300 or 200 calories out of your diet or whatever, It's like, come on. You don't feel any different. You've lost 2 pounds of water weight at this point, So, it's just don't focus on it. That's what I think. I mean, personally, I just don't put any hyper focus on what I should feel like. I try to be, objective with myself and actually listen to feedback and actually what's going on, and not just, kind of go off the emotions of, oh, I'm doing this much cardio, so this sucks, or I'm eating this much food in the off season, this sucks. Like, obviously, if there is an issue, address it, but don't expect to feel something that's not there.
Oh, that's exactly it. Having any kind of, especially, let's say it's your first show and you've only heard some things, you can go in with knowledge, but to go in with, like you said, pure expectations that this is going to be hell, or conversely, this is going to be easy, or as we talked about in another episode, like going in thinking that you're not going to have to do any cardio, or going in thinking you're going to have to do 3 hours of cardio, that can just not only screw with the mind, but that's living so far into the future, which is going to give you some anxiety to some degree. I really like that you said that about when people are at the beginning of prep and they say, oh my God, or whatever. They actually had 2 girls for their shows coming up. They asked me and said, oh, when does prep start? And I said, you've been in prep for 2 weeks. And, right? and it was because I know, right? And that's, they were like, holy crap. I was like, and then I even said, do you feel any different? And they said, well, no. I'm like, well, this is prep. You've been losing body fat. You've been doing a little bit more. And they're like, oh, okay. And these are both first time girls. And I love the fact that I was able to kind of, we'll say, sneak prep in there. Because everyone wants to get this set time, right? The 18, the 12, the 16, whatever weeks, and that all of a sudden, boom, it's prep mentality or whatever. And that's where I do, especially if you want to be, we'll call it, more serious of an athlete, along the lines of yourself. I do agree with that the mindset could be and should be similar, so that when it's there's nothing to really switch other than, you, like you said, it's more of the physical demands and kind of the mental demands. But I do see that the two, well, if we had to split them into two very distinct categories, there's the pre-contest mindset and then there's the off-season mindset. And usually what goes along with those is off-season is more slack, it is more loose, that you can get away with things and kind of all that stuff. And not necessarily what a lie, but it all depends on who you're hearing this from. Is that you? Is your brain saying this, or are you just told? And how often do you hear, even during prep or not during prep, or anyone that's following a fitness lifestyle, a friend, a family relative, anything like that, saying, "Oh, it's just one beer. Oh, it's just a sandwich," because and then that's already, we'll say, social stigma trying to screw with your mindset or what's going on with your emotions. So you're kind of pulled in so many different directions, and that's one of the things I like to ask is, how strong is the mindset that you have, or are you able to be easily persuaded or dissuaded away from that mindset? And that's valuable feedback for yourself, either if you're self-assessing or from a coach, is let them know that stuff. If you are struggling, you have to let us know, because we will definitely have, not only this is why I will say tips and tricks around that, but we'll be able to recalibrate and refocus, because I know I've been through the ringer, washed up through the ringer, put on the clothesline, got bird crap on me, had to wash again. Like, I've been there, done that, with so much of the mindset stuff and the roller coasters that come with some of it, that now I have things in place that don't throw me so far off that I don't even see the show date anymore.
Yeah, I like what you said about sneaking the prep in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was hilarious, because they're like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah, you're already in prep for 2 weeks," and they're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, please don't think any differently. Just pretend I didn't say it."
I do it all the time. I mean, not I won't all the time, but I definitely do that, and more as time goes on, unless someone's a national level competitor. I mean, I know, like, there in Canada, you literally have Canadian nationals. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have a few shows, but really it's still limited. If it's that type of person, hey, yeah, we got this time frame. This is what we have to work with. We're not piddling around with these regional shows because you're cleaning house or whatever.
Right.
That's different. And at that point, that seasoned competitors should have a pretty good grasp on their mindset anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody else, I don't pick shows if we don't have to pick shows. I mean, we'll give a time frame, a general time frame, and that's that. And we go, and when you're 4 to 6 weeks out conditioned, then we pick a show. And at that point, you're pretty much in the groove already. But the biggest thing that I take away from what you said is you have to think for yourself.
Mm.
You think for yourself, and that's literally think for yourself, objectively, not think with your emotion, not think with somebody else's emotion, not think with stigmas, not think with stereotypes, like none of that stuff. You literally have to think for yourself and be able to evaluate how you feel and what's going on around you. And from there, you're going to be able to have a lot better experience, just because, unless you're not good at thinking for yourself, and that's a whole different story. But you're going to have a lot better experience, just because you won't have to worry about those those social outings, things like that. You'll know what you're comfortable with. You know what you can do. You'll know how to respond to people. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, like I said, I'm pretty stable year round. And I mean, I have a lot of clients that they do a good job, and I have others that they struggle. But at the end of the day, I I like to kind of try to balance the two. I try to get that message across, like I said, of off season and contest prep, and trying to make the contrast between the two as small as possible if I can.
Yeah, and I love that you said that too. And I bet that it would depend too upon who you're hanging around. Which one of the funniest things about prep that I don't know, if I'm pretty sure that most people don't know going in what's going to happen, in a sense of you will find out what your social circle is like pretty darn quick. In a sense of if you make it public, or you say, hey, I'm going to do a fitness competition, that will immediately have a stigma behind it for your friends and your family. Like I have seen more supportive families that I could not thank enough. And when I do meet them at the shows, I give them hugs and say, thank you so much. And then I've also seen more families try to derail their clients, and we're talking mothers and fathers. Like, not even, doesn't even need to be the potential the thoughts inside their head that this could potentially be a health risk, which, yeah, I get it. It's out there. But this is even from, we're talking like a bikini girl that's looking to do her first show and look good. Like, there's just no support. And then the friends as well, they'll tell you, like, especially now that bikini and not that bodybuilding has it, but bikini and figure and some of the other female categories has become such a, oh, well, I did it, you can do it too type of thing. And then when they get there, then their friends will already fill their head with, oh, this is what's going to happen here, be prepared for this, be prepared for that. And that's not necessarily going to be setting them up for the mind frame that we want. And it's not only like what we want. And I say that you don't need my mindset. You don't need Austin's mindset. You do need to be, like Austin said, yourself, but it's trying to take as many things as objectively as you can. And that's where, again, a coach can be so darn invaluable, because you ask some questions. Say, hey, I heard that the last 8 weeks I'm going to feel like hell and I'm not going to be able to sleep. Is that true? And then we can help bust that kind of stuff. But to grab a hold of blogs and things like that, and I'll actually be a little bit of devil's advocate there. You talked about seasoned competitors. I've seen some disgruntled seasoned competitors that used to love it, and now they will be the first person to tell you to get away from it, say don't do a show, it will wreck your life, and it's like, okay, like what happened to you, or whatever, or like what took the love away, or something like that. So it can be both motivating and demotivating in that sense too, which was kind of what we'll take into one of the better topics about this is motivation. And what I'm going to say first about it is that shows should not be your motivation. And people, what do you mean by that? But Austin, you touched on it perfectly. Is that you said get in shape, and then you're wherever that around 6 weeks out, then you can pick the show. I have been saying a line along those lines for forever, which is get in shape, then pick the show. Don't pick the show, then get in shape, because it makes it more endlessly anxious on the brain. Then you only have this many weeks to go, and I don't know of too many people that do the get in shape, pick the show. Almost all the people that I have been encountering, they will pick the show and then try to get in shape for it. So why did I say don't use the show as motivation? Because it doesn't end there. And if this is your way every year to get in shape for the summer or whatever, and you don't care about the judging, even then I would like to know what you're doing in the quote unquote off season or in between shows. Is that just, do you go back into some kind of destructive habits? Do you rebound? Do you binge? And so why do you have to have the show as the motivation? And this is not necessarily to say that you need to be a hardcore bodybuilder to compete or anything like that. It's open to absolutely anyone. But if let's say if you continuously do the show is your motivation, and you're off for whatever time before the 16 to 12 week comes, and you maybe are potentially expecting progression either in how you look or your placing. Let's say you're like, I came in 6th last year, let's do 4th this year, and the only time you tramp on the gas or to do better is pre-contest, you're going to end. That's I won't necessarily say a flawed mindset, but that's something that should be addressed for sure. The best analogy I have for this, and this is a mega original. I've been using this, and you don't necessarily need to be kind of like this, but video gamers. This is my favorite thing ever, because if you were to go to the mall, you were to go to the movie theater, you were to go to church, anywhere, and you say to a gamer, someone that likes video games, hey, what would you rather be doing right now? And you know them or whatever, they're going to look at you with the dumbest look and say, video games? And you go, oh, okay, cool. So do you think they need motivation to play video games? Do you think they need an end date to play video games? Do you think they need to have a prize to play video game? No, they want to play effing games. That's what they want to do. So that's a passion. And that you don't necessarily need the passion to be involved in competing, but it's got to be somewhere close to that, because this is especially when competing, this is an extreme sport. It is unbalanced. Let's be honest about it. But you need to be the gamer in a sense of if you start using verbiage such as, oh, I have to go to the gym, or I hate cardio. Even you saying that is telling your mind psychologically a heck of a lot of where you're at. And I love that video game analogy, because that's it. The gamer will game all the time. If anything, parents or friends will try to pull the gamer away and say, listen, man, go the hell outside. Stop gaming so damn much, because that's how much they enjoy it. And one final thing about that is, if let's say a gamer stops enjoying games, now that's when we're starting to look into potential of going off the rails for your mindset, in terms of you're doing too much gym, or you're doing, because that is definitely a thing with that too much tunnel vision. And then not only that, but that could wreck your emotions as well, could wreck friendships. I know guys and girls that have lost relationships over video games, let alone fitness. So just something to take in mind, that motivation. I know that you've got it's a term out there that's kind of tossed around a little bit too much, in my opinion. And now, Austin, you had some really good stuff you wanted to say about that. So what do you find is motivation, or where do you find motivation is on the fitness realm, and what you think about it?
Okay, yeah, because I know we talked about this a little before we started. The whole idea of using motivation as fuel, I think, is just such a flawed thought process. Mm-hmm. I think I used the word fleeting and unreliable.
That's right.
Those two words.
It's absolutely perfect. Fleeting and unreliable.
And that's just it. It is. I mean, motivation is fleeting and it's unreliable, because don't get me wrong, I think motivation has its place. If somebody is motivated to start something new, it can be an okay way to kind of give you an extra boost at the beginning. Motivation is not going to help someone, stick to their fitness or bodybuilding lifestyle, or continue to improve for 30 years or something, you know what I mean? Like that's not going to happen. For that matter, motivation might not even help you improve for 16 weeks of contest prep. Because there are going to be plenty of times in there that you're just not going to be motivated. That's just that's the truth. I mean, motivation is easy when you feel good. When you feel good, when the serotonin, your dopamine are pumping, all the neurotransmitters are firing, you feel great. Yeah, you're going to be motivated because you're in a good mood. It's not, that's not super difficult to really connect the pieces. But when you don't feel good, or when there's other things, other obstacles, that's really real life right there. I mean, that's what real life's going to be about. Because cycles of happiness and sadness, just from a psychology standpoint, cycles of happiness and sadness are normal. It's just, obviously, we want to try to keep the sadness cycles to a minimum and keep them mild. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But even people that are generally happy, like they have days. They have days that they feel a little down and out, and they have days that maybe feel a little empty or just a little disconnected from things. So think of that person that they're generally pretty good, but they still have those days. Now take them down to, single digit body fat and 1,500 calories and, whatever amount of cardio. Now let's see how many of those days that they have. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, they're going to have more, of course, just because now you're putting your body in a state that is completely unnatural, completely against how we work biologically, completely against what our body wants to do, which is to store fat and maintain homeostasis. We're interrupting that. So yeah, of course, stays, and that's not just prep. I know we're kind of talked about prep, but it's just in general. I mean, for that matter, I notice a lot of people have more problems with relying on motivation in the off season versus prep, because prep, they might have, let's say they do have a definitive timeline. At least they have that timeline. They can count down. They can do whatever the hell they need to tick the days away. But off season, if you want to have a productive off season that requires time, that's so open ended. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're like, well, when's my next prep start, or when does, what's the end of the off season? Like, how long is it going to be? And sometimes, I mean, people, they're like, hey, I want to gain. I'll have somebody that wants to go from men's physique up to classic physique, or move up a weight class in bodybuilding or something, or a girl that wants to go from bikini to figure. I'm like, your off season might be 2 or 3 years. Like, no joke.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean 2 or 3 years of productively working at it, not willy-nilly, like have a good 6 months and then mess around for 3 months and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's being productive for several years at a time, and no amount of motivation is going to stick with you for 3 years. That's just not going to happen. That's not how our brains work. So yeah, motivation, it's definitely not something I would rely on. You're going to have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do at times, but you have to want the end goal and want the end result enough to understand that those momentary lapses of feeling good or feeling motivated are okay and are normal. You're not a prisoner. You're not trapped. That's normal stuff. I mean, ask any person that's been successful at anything in their life. Maybe it's a businessman. I bet you they've been pissed off and had so many bad days. They couldn't even begin to tell you how many days they just felt like crap, but they pushed through it and it was worth it.
Oh, that's exactly. And we just talked about that, I believe, a little bit before, is that the failure is the best teacher. And if someone's only have successes, they're either lying or they've never tried at anything. Right, so or they never had failures. If they say they never had a failure, they're either lying to you or they haven't tried anything in their lives, right? So that's great when you how you said about for the motivation, especially during prep, because you can be a physical motivator too, because you're seeing changes. You are looking in the mirror, you're seeing the abs come, you're seeing the cheekbones go in, you're seeing muscles you've never seen before, you're starting to get more veins. So in that, yeah, you can, and I'm not saying we're both not saying don't use it. It's just it is something that can add nitrous kind of to things, right? But discipline has to always be at the basis of the motivation. The motivation would be something like, especially the external stuff, like let's say you do look good, and so you look in the mirror and go, okay, cool, I can keep this up, I can keep going, or you got a poster of Arnold on your wall, pick anything really, or are you looking at a girls online and they got great glutes, or they got a swimsuit, you go, oh, I want to look like that girl, cool, and that motivates you. That can also turn into some pretty darn quickly demotivational stuff, like let's say 6 months into your fitness plan or whatever, and you're like, damn, I don't look a thing like Arnold, and then so that can actually backfire. And so that's where I'm going with the motivation thing, though, right? And that's where you mentioned business people and the failures and stuff is some way. So if you really want to be successful in fitness, in competing, in a radical change, it has got to somehow, some way start ranking in forms of a passion. Now, does it need to be your dying wish? Like as in Austin, I know you got the same amount of passion as I do, man, or we wouldn't be still doing this. We wouldn't be wanting to help others with it. We wouldn't still be in pursuit of it ourselves if it wasn't something we were almost a little bit crazy about. But hey, that's to me the definition of passion, right? Yeah. But that's where I'm going with this, is that's internal motivation. That is like the video game thing again, though, right? It's that comes from some from what is I want to do this. This is where I want to be. There's a great video, or I know it's just the audio, but it's on YouTube. It's called "What Would You Do If Money Were No Object?" And I've asked a couple clients that, and they'll say, "Oh, I would go parasailing, I would go travel, I would go." If working out and training and eating well is not on there, I kind of you know what, because so then why are you doing this? And that's okay. And if you come to the realization somewhere, some point, that maybe this level of fitness or anything like that is not what you're after, that is cool. You are not defeated. You are not a jerk. That's okay, because this stuff, when I mean this stuff, like the competing, the pursuit of constant progression, this is not for everyone. But to have that be internally inside of you, to want to know that this is a very large goal of mine, that's where it's got to come from. I wrote a blog on this called What's Next, or What Now, because the amount of people, I know you've had this happen as well, Austin, that when they finish the show, like I think you even said this, when's the next one? And that's so much wrongness. Just the reason why is you if you need that external motivation, that end date, that deadline to do something, just think back to when you were in school and you had a term paper, and that term paper was in 4 months. How few of you started that term paper right then and there? Not me. I'll tell you that. And the only time I've ever done that kind of stuff was when I got nutrition and training textbooks. I got them and I studied them of my own friggin' accord, because that's what I wanted to do. No one was telling me to do it. There was no deadline. I did not need to read this book by this date. I wanted to do it. So to trying looking inside and seeing if this is for you, like I really, really like that. You can go watch it, the What If Money Were No Object, because it's trying to help people find out what they would, what they really like doing with their lives. And if you watch that video and you think to yourself, and like training hard is not on there, that's telling you something as well. But then also you can look into what your values and your convictions are as well. Just because if you value your health above a lot more things, then yeah, this is probably something for yourself, right? So that's also to really think about motivation from the external. For kind of one last thing is, I know lots of people like reading self-help books. I know lots of people like going to see motivational speakers and kind of all these things. I think they did the polls on this, and it's something like 2, 3, or 4 weeks the maximum after they see the motivational speaker, they report either needing or wanting to see another one, and that's telling you a lot. Like if you, let's just use it as a fitness example. If you always have to daily look at that poster of Arnold to go to get to the gym, that to me that mindset, or let's say we get rid of the Arnold poster, now what? You know what I'm saying? So like that's what I'm after.
And we agreed that we didn't want to fully touch on this topic of the social media thing. But that's another thing. It's just, I think that a lot of people don't understand what it's like to actually work in silence. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want that to sound like a lonely thing. I know it does sound kind of lonely, and there are parts of it that are going to be a little lonely, but,
I'll pause you there for 1 second. So, just to completely use that again, do you think that the video gamer needs an audience to play? Do you know what I mean? Like a lot, like you said, it's in silence, right? Like posting every single video game victory or whatever on social media. Probably not. Like, I know that there's probably out there where guys do that, but like you said, there is a lot of working in silence, and you have to enjoy that for you. So I didn't mean to kill you there, Austin, but that just blinged right to my head there, is that's exactly it. There's a lot of time, and it doesn't need to be lonely. That's just, it's relishing in what you enjoy in silence. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, that's it. That's essentially what I was getting at, is that you have to be able to do this for you at the end of the day. like I said, just to briefly touch on the social media thing, it's
Yeah,
like,
man,
well,
go for it.
you know, when I see someone post, they have like 900 stories every day. You know what I mean? Like of every step that they take. It's just sometimes I kind of wonder, you know, what is that person like in real life? What would happen if you took that away from them? You
Yep.
know, what what would they do? And, you know, I feel like I was fortunate enough to do my first contest and that wasn't there. That wasn't like really, I remember my first two contests for that matter. I don't really think I posted anything on social media. I was starting to get onto Facebook a little bit on my second show, but I mean, I didn't really care. Honestly, I didn't. Um, and I had photos. I mean, I had photos every week or twice a week or whatever, sometimes daily towards the end, but I just didn't. That just wasn't my concern, and I just did it because that's what I wanted to do. And guess what? There were plenty of days where I really didn't feel like doing certain things, but you know, you can't take pity on yourself either. You know, you definitely don't want to make it a pity party. Anything that's difficult, sometimes less thinking and more doing is a little bit better. It can be, you know, and that's kind of another subtopic for us here is that it's just sometimes you don't want to overthink things and you just need to do things. And that's assuming you have a sound plan. I mean, if you're working with a coach, then hey, if you're finding that you are working with a coach and that you thinking about the details too much is hurting you, well, you pay someone to do that for you. So just don't, you know what I mean? Just don't worry about the details. Trust what they're telling you and execute. There's a time and a place to think a little bit more, and sometimes and you could use this for anything in life. You just don't want to make decisions and analyze your thoughts at times that you don't feel good or feel normal. You know what I mean? You don't want to make decisions at times that you're emotional. That's a horrible time to make a decision. And that's a horrible time to analyze how your progress is. And that's a horrible time to determine what your next move is going to be. And that's not, you know, you need to have a stable environment to make those decisions, and you need to and be able to shut things out when things get bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's been times that I've been in prep or just even off season, and I'm like, I'll get negative thoughts that come into my head. Doubt, I think would be the one that most people get, right? It's just doubt that they're going to be able to get where they want to be, or doubt that whatever it is they're doing is going to work. You got to shut that out real quick. Obviously, if nothing's happening for an extended period of time, then yeah, you probably aren't doing something right. But, you know, the doubt thing is, it's super detrimental. I get it all the time. I mean, you know, the stuff that I've talked about, like you and I've talked about with business stuff here with the last couple years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some new things, and not so much my coaching business, just other ventures and stuff that I had going on. That I just wasn't really confident in things, but at the end of the day, I made things work. And they didn't even end up working out how I thought they would, but you know, I got through it. Don't get me wrong. I put it on autopilot plenty of times because I knew taking it off autopilot and trying to manually operate was a bad idea. So yeah, that's kind of my point. Don't overanalyze things at times. There are plenty of times where you do need to shut it down and you do need to just follow your steps blindly, if you will.
I love that. That's absolutely perfect. And the best part about having a coach, and I've said this so many, let's say that I have a client say, and this actually happened, believe it or not, before the November show. I had a girl that was competing 3 weeks out. Someone took her keys from her locker and stole her vehicle from the gym. Stole it, flat out stole it, went to her locker, keys weren't there, went out to the parking lot, the vehicle was gone. And she was smart, immediately texted me and said, Marty, my fucking vehicle got stolen. And I was like, okay, this is obviously not that good. So, and kind of what the tactics of what I've always liked to say, and this is, of course, much easier said than done, is to focus on what you can control. But the best part about having a coach is that your fitness is set up and your food is set up exactly for you and for your frigging goals. And one of the quotes that I've been kind of saying, I don't know if it's mine or not, but it's when things are going wrong, you always know that you are in control of your fitness and you are in control of your food, and that can save you. So that is something positive in your frigging life. So that, let's say you get your vehicle stolen at 3 weeks out. Yeah, that sucks. But and then, like you said, self-pity, and then, like, I can't imagine. That's terrible. But you do, not only do you have goals, but we can even take it a step further in going, the thief is winning in a sense if that ruins your contest prep. Because that is like, how dare they take away your hard work, your brain, your mind frame, your emotions, and they take that away from where you want them to be, so that the bare minimum you always have the fitness to kind of go off of. And for the self-doubt, or for the doubt thing, or the self-doubt thing, I know you do too. Encourage extremely open communication about that. And even if someone says, "Oh, I'm doubting this," like, they can even say that they doubt the plan. They can even say that they doubt, and that's fine. That is gonna happen there, because sometimes people don't want to blame themselves and they want to potentially blame the coach, and that's cool. And I've got a line I like saying is, "Hey, worry when I'm worried, and I'm not worried." And they kind of go, "Oh." I say, like, why on earth would you worry? The only thing you need to potentially be worrying about is your food and your workouts. That's it. Leave the rest to me. That's the whole point of hiring a coach, is that you don't have to have any of those doubts. If you and one more, geez, I'm quoting myself like crazy here. What a narcissist, right? Is don't look back and say, if only I had have, or if I only had followed Marty's plan, or only if only I had listened to Austin. It's just, don't look back and do that, because it not only will it potentially wreck things, but that's a really good mindset to put yourself into, is that Marty and Austin have got this, they're not new to this. This is not their first barbecue, not their first rodeo. They've done this. They have only my best interests in mind. Why on earth am I worried or doubting myself when they not only why would they be trying to put me on stage if they didn't believe in me? So therefore I believe in me. And I say that I've said that all the time too, because they'll say, "Oh, I'm doubting things, I don't know if I can do it." And I say, "Do you trust me? Or do you believe in me?" And they say, "Yeah." And I say, "Well, I believe in you. I believe in my plan. I'm obnoxiously conceited about my plans. So therefore, you now believe in yourself too." And they go, "Holy crap, you're right." And that's it. There's the little tiny things that you can do about that too. So obviously do some homework about the coach, do some homework about the training, or whatever. Even if you don't feel it's right and you say, "I don't know about this training," get them to give you a little bit of an explanation. Get this, just enough information. And this varies from client to client. I have some clients that grab the plan, report back, and the results are killer. I've got other clients that will grab the plan and say, "I don't want to be I'm trying to annoy you," whatever they want to say, and then can you explain to me why I'm doing leg press before leg extensions? I'll say, "Yeah," and I'll give it, and they'll go, "Oh," and so now even more so, they're more confident. There's less doubt. There's less self-doubt. There's less doubt in me and the plan, and all that will do is push you to the mind frame of where you should be. And then I'll kind of go into that too, is that Randy Pausch, he has a really great book called The Last Lectures. I don't know if you've seen the lecture or read the book, but he says that pity and self-pity is the most useless of all the emotions, because it doesn't solve anything for anyone. And that's so true. Like, for instance, like, let's say there's someone on the sidewalk, both their parents just died in a car accident, and he's left there alone. Let's make up something obnoxious like that. You feeling bad for them ain't solving shit. So, and not only that, but let's say if you ate the ice cream, or you didn't do the cardio, you were doing negative time. You're wasting even more time by sitting there and hating yourself or hating the situation or whatever. It's just the two most useless emotions are like trying to solve a math problem by chewing bubble gum. It's just not going to frigging work, right? And then I don't think I really got much more to say about that, other than I would really like to kind of start talking about the instant gratification versus the long-term mindset stuff. That good with you?
Yeah, because I mean, all I was going to do was nod my head and agree. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing is, let's say you're looking, you've got the contest prep mindset or whatever, you're using the date, you go 3 weeks left, I can crush it for the next 3 weeks. And even I will say listen, or something along the lines of, let's say the cardio is getting up there. Let's say you are starting to get tired. Let's say you are starting to have less energy. You say, listen, you got 3 friggin' weeks. And I'll say the same thing I just said. Don't look back and go, if only I had have. Say, come on now, crush it. 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks. We can do that. And then we do worry about the off season because people will, and I know you know this too, they're at 2, 3, 4 weeks out. They're already thinking about the next show, or they're thinking about what they're going to have in the off season. I'm like, whoa. We have a show to place, let alone win, let alone thinking about going to get a pro card. And so that's the instant gratification too, is that it is, you want it in some ways because it won't be super instant unless it's obviously show day. But then for long-term stuff, to be successful in that and to not be always caught up in, I need a show, I need a reward, I need a show, I need a reward, which is even kind of the idea behind frequent cheat meals, is that it's not only knowing that the greater good is there, but knowing that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Fitness, even though you can see, I know Austin and I both had some really wicked transformations in fairly short amount of times, but it's even them. Things not only do slow down, but for them to improve, it's not going to be lightning. You do have to take some time to kind of get to where we'll say you ultimately want to go. Even if let's say you just got that big raise at work, you went from $15 an hour to $50. Well, you just got the raise. You don't have the money yet. You still have to do the work. So it's still, we'll call it delayed gratification. You still have to do the work. And so what let's even use that money example, and you say you just won the show. Cool. That now puts you up to the $50 an hour. Well, you better do something to make the $50 an hour. You still got to do the work, which would be going to the gym, making sure that you're not being a donkey in the off season, so that you can accumulate that wealth and you could potentially get the pro card, potentially go on from there. And that's the probably the bigger problem, or the biggest problem, I especially know with women, and it's not to discount the men too, is that in the off season you don't see the changes potentially as quickly. You don't see the instant motivation or the visual or external motivation that quickly. So that's when you really do need to start developing your mindset and not looking for the day-to-day progress or even the week-to-week progress, because your weight will do one thing, your strength will do another. And so it's finding the right ways to keep not only the mind happy but the heart happy, so that you're not tricked into thinking, oh, I need to have that dopamine serotonin shot. You don't need to have that food to kind of do that. You don't need to always be winning a show every weekend or competing in a show every weekend. Like there's not only psychological consequences but biological consequences of that too, between burnout, CNS burnout, metabolism downregulation, all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, there's so much to be said about the long-term stuff versus the only getting caught into the immediate gratification stuff.
Yeah, and one of the most useful tools that I like to use is visualization. I mean, it's not the only thing that I'll do. I mean, good old pep talk and just some and some understanding is good. I mean, as far as the understanding thing goes, when I say understanding, I don't mean understanding like, oh yeah, I'm not making very quick progress. That's fine. I mean, understanding as, I think it's a good idea to at least have a relatively decent grasp on what you're doing. So if I have someone that's, their progress is kind of slow in the off season, maybe we're actually more in a health phase and we're trying to work on correcting some blood work, metabolic issues, things like that. You need to understand that is progress. That is part of our plan. Like that's what we're progressing at right now. Maybe they're deloading from training, they're backing off, they're resting, yada, yada, yada. That's progress. Why? Because that's what the plan is. And it has a purpose. If it has a purpose, then it's progress. You need to serve, you have to have that purpose. And once you have that purpose, you are progressing because you're working towards something that is productive. in some way, shape, or form. So beyond that, like I said, the visualization thing, yeah, it's if you can't visualize the end goal in some way, I just find that it makes it a lot more difficult to put yourself in that place. It makes it a lot more difficult to follow through, to get that edge. Like you could go through a contest prep, get lean, get all the, do all those things, but maybe you're in the gym, you're feeling really tired, and you just like, forget it. I'm just going to kind of float through the workout today, whatever. Or your cardio just really sucks that day, and you cut it short or something. Well, somebody that, or you're just kind of, going at it real half-assed, somebody that can visualize the end goal, they're not going to do that. Why? Because they know why they're pushing that little extra bit. They can see themselves at the finish line. I do some cheesy stuff sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm really tired in prep. Like, I've gotten to points where my steady state cardio is hard. Like my legs just don't want to freaking move. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like it seems pitiful because it's not like super intense, but I'll sit like if I'm on my bike or maybe on a stationary bike or whatever, I'll tell myself, I'm like, somebody else, you got to beat that person. You don't want to lose by a point. You got to beat that person or whatever motivates me. I want to have that extra striation. I want to have this or that or whatever. Same thing in the gym. And if it's as cheesy as you got to be, just do it, because if it's helping you, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'll do that extra rep for the win or for getting a better placing or whatever. I mean, that's, hey, I really don't care what people think about it, because frankly, if it helps me, that's all I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, like exactly. I've used more cliches and like laughed to myself about them, but they've worked for me, right? Like the no stone left unturned, like any of that stuff. Like it will work for you. That's the reason why they've been around for so long, is because those frigging help you, right? And I love that you talked about the non-visual markers, is what I kind of like to say, like as in the health, the mental clarity, anything else. Like there is life outside of this stuff in terms of fitness, and that's a darn good thing, because sometimes if you find that, let's say, your fitness mindset is kind of waning or leaving you, and your fitness mindset is just kind of dampened in some way, take a break and come back, because you are allowed to do that. I think Jay Cutler used to take something like 4 to 8 weeks off of after each Mr. Olympia, just to friggin' not only recharge the body because of how much it would get beat up, but just to give him a chance to love it again, to give him a chance to do other things. So I don't exactly know what he did, if he traveled or what he did, or just kind of laid around at home. But you have to have, and I will be so forceful in this, you have to have other things you enjoy in life outside of just bodybuilding / the gym. There just is. There's too many friggin' awesome things in life. Go on a roller coaster, go to a water park, go travel, go to Disneyland, go do something, right? And not only that, but everyone likes to say, oh, like 2 steps back for 4 steps forward. BS about the 2 steps back. That is still going friggin' forward. Yeah, right? Because that is still going friggin' forward. Because like if you have to stop and you got to get your bowel movements from almost nothing or 1 every 3 days, you're up to now 1 a day, and then you move up to 2 a day. That's not putting a back seat to anything. That is putting everything in the front seat. That is not only that. Like I use the analogy of the highway. Maybe we're just going 40 on the highway, you're still on the highway. Even though you're going 40 and you're pissing other people off, when you get those bowel movements going again, or you get your emotions going again, or you get your even you had to take a little bit of time off, like deload, you had to get your knees back to being good, you had to go get some massage, you could that now you're going to jump back into 120, 130, 140. I'm talking kilometers an hour here. Let's go with 140 miles an hour. Screw it. 140 miles an hour. You're on nitrous down the highway, right? Like and that's just it. And so you want to go cheesy. I'm going to go super friggin' cheesy, is that think about that you can actually do this shit. How, like, I made a post just yesterday about gratitude, and like the fact that we have the ability to complain about an extra 5 minutes of cardio is a damn gift. Like, I'm terrible at that. I forget that stuff. Like, we have Thanksgiving and you'll go, oh, I'm grateful for this. Borderline every morning, I think, and I'm guilty. I don't do this yet, and I hope I start doing it, is just wake up knowing that you can go smash legs. You can go look in the mirror and see some definition. You have running water from your tap. I'm not going to go too far into it further than this, but like we forget that stuff. Right, like in terms of complaining and everything else, I heard once. I think it was something like 10 million people. I'm just making it is an obnoxiously high number. 10 million people die of dehydration a year, and here we are trying to look to see if the glass is half empty or half full. There's friggin' water in the glass.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, like the super cheesy stuff, because I'll talk to myself sometimes, and I'll be in the middle of cardio or whatever. I'll be like, Austin, you're being ridiculous. Stop being negative. Stop being a wuss. Basically, it's like, this isn't hard. Like, yeah, it is physically, it is hard. But having gone through things in life, things that are emotionally hard are normally worse than things that are physically hard. At the end of the day, just because it's just limitless. Physically, you can end up failing. Emotionally, it's kind of the difficulty level is limitless. It can be, it can infinite. But yeah, I tell myself all kinds of cheesy stuff. I'm like, seriously, stop. Whatever. Keep going. Keep doing this. It's fine. Don't be a wuss. There's somebody out there with different circumstances, and I know people like that. And it's one of those things, though. It's like, I find that you have to continually break barriers, though, because like I know people that have disabilities or they have some kind of there's a guy that I've become pretty good friends with, and we've had him on my other podcast before, but Jeff Black has brittle bone disease.
Oh yes, you guys had him on there, eh? That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, good. So
Jeff's a good guy. You think about somebody like that, and you talk to him, and he's actually stayed at our house for a weekend once here recently, and granted, he's grown up with that, so he's definitely adapted to that situation. But what I get from that is that, yeah, there are people worse off than you, but you do have to break those barriers. Once you have an experience that's harder than the last experience, things start going down. Like, I use stress as an example. My wife and our stress-o-meter is completely different at this point.
Okay.
Because I have run two businesses simultaneously, one that was brand new, one that was extremely busy, and like all these things going on. What registers as a 10 on her stress-o-meter is like a 2 on mine.
Okay, that's cool. Dynamics, eh?
Right, you know what I mean? So, and it wasn't always like that. Like, at one point, it was, there was a time where our stress-o-meter was the same, but I continually broke barriers and have different experiences and stuff, and she has too since then. But, those things are good for you. Those things they help you grow. Those things will help you develop as a person, and those things will, just make you better at the end of the day.
I will say that it is a trick, and I hope all clients of mine that end up listening to this, I hope they call me out on this too. But here's the big trick, or the thing that I don't put out or promote about my coaching, is that it's all about the emotional center and the psychology behind it too, because yes, I know that people hire us for meal plans and for the training and for supplement protocols and for our peak weeks and for our results that we've got with other clients. I know that's why they hire us, but I will inadvertently try to dig deeper with them on that if they'll let me. If they don't, that's super cool. But I remember I had a talk with a girl. It was the most fascinating conversation for her. She was not feeling well. She was down. She was depressed. She was unhappy with work, and she had been gaining some weight. And she said, if I just, I know that I'm my happiest because when I am at this body fat or whatever, when I'm leaner or something like that. So then she said, I know my focus needs to be right now to get back into the gym in a sense, just because she was out of the gym for a bit. So that was her big focus right there, because that was what's going to make her happy. And I was like, okay. And she said, I know that will make me happier. And I said to her, so then when the last time you got in that shape, if that's what made you happy and you are now happy, why didn't you stay there? And that just it was thank gosh, because I knew her well enough that she didn't attack me with the scorn of 1,000 hellhounds, but she's oh my God, you're right. And so the whole point of me saying that is that if you have the emotions balanced and you have the mindset or like, cause I really don't care for the term mindset, because I find it's a band-aid. But if you do have the emotions in check, like, you're not competing to get back at your ex-boyfriend because you're hurt, or you're not competing because someone said you can't, or any of that weird crap, or you're competing to make your husband appreciate you, any of that's okay. Your emotions are balanced, and you're going in and you're wanting to do a show. You will be so much more apt to succeed when you are in the right frame of mind, in the right frame of heart. So it's almost a side effect, even if you're, and this has been proven by science time over and over again, is that if you are doing well, and what I mean by that is you are not unhappy, you are dealing with things good, you're dealing with stress good, things are fine, family's fine, whatever, or even if they aren't fine, but you're dealing with them well, you are going to eat better and eat better intuitively without even thinking about it. You will stop the binging, or not necessarily you are binging, but if you are binging, you'll stop the binging, you'll stop as much crap, you'll gravitate towards more healthy foods. This used to be just flat out my opinion 7-8 years ago, but there's science out there that's saying this, and so that will make things endlessly more easier for you. So like as you said, that what used to cause you a 10 out of 10 stress now is a 2 out of 10 stress. It's like you said, you got to work on this stuff. Like it's without the psychological and the emotional fitness, the physical is the last part. I like to the last analogy I'll give you guys is I call the body the jocks of the high school, and I call the brain the chess club. If I'm going to use the body as a high school, because you can run the jocks and you can have them play sports whenever, and they will not care because they love doing that stuff. They love getting beat up. They love playing sports. But if you piss off the chess club enough, they're usually the smarter people in the high school. They'll give you the FU, and they will then not come back to school. And then if the school's not running, the jocks can't play. So if the students go on strike type of thing. So it's always going to be from there. And so I just want to kind of say that if the mindset is off, if the motivation isn't there, and you really are believing that if I just get back into shape, or if I just get in better shape, I'll be happy. You know what? It can help. I'm not saying that eating on plan or getting a plan won't cascade and turn into things becoming better for you, but what I am saying is that it won't stick unless you either go over with your coach, potentially, if they have that kind of capability, if they have a little bit of psychology background. But yeah, to be long-term successful, that's the whole point of this, is not just looking at the instant gratification. You want to be long-term. You got to start wrapping your brain around some things in that fitness. There is more to fitness, and the stuff that there is more that's out there will only help the fitness.
Yeah, I used this little saying, and I said, let's assume that their life is not in shambles. I'm not talking like their life is just god awful and they're a drug addict or they're doing stuff that's terrible. Let's assume that it's not like that. I tell them, you need to learn how to be happier and be more productive doing the same things that you do now.
Absolutely. You
have to, because I talked about me and my stress. I don't do anything any different. Guess what? I do more shit now than I did then.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's just all in your handling ability, right?
The amount of stuff that I do in a day, most days, is like mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. During this podcast, I cooked like 5 meals. And
that's fantastic.
And you know what I mean? And I'm talking and I'm multitasking. I mean, that's kind of mindless. I just throw it on the stove or whatever. But yeah, my point is that you, whether it's being productive or whatever, you have to be able to become happier doing the same things, because in reality, life, even a good life, like, it's relatively monotonous. You know, it is relatively repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be repetitive. I mean, and if you want to do bodybuilding, I mean, shit, that's like the most repetitive thing on the planet.
You pick things up and put them down.
Right. And you can't even, like, not only are the steps of it repetitive, but the things that you do during it are repetitive. You pick up your spoon and you put it in your mouth over and over again. You pick up a weight and you put it down over and over again. And then you do that for 20 sets in a workout, and you do that 4 to 5 days a week. And you do that for, you know, years on end. It's like, the only thing that even changes is the amounts of food and the amounts of the weights. And really, I mean, like, and that's life too. I mean, people go to work every day. Like, hey, don't get me wrong. My life's not typical 9 to 5. I know yours isn't either, because we're both, I guess you consider, entrepreneurs. I mean, we have different stuff going on.
Definitely.
But at the same time, we're still doing a lot of the same stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get good at something without repetition.
And not only that, but to me, therein lies the fun, man. Is like getting better at something, trying something new, even getting better at something that you're already good at. Like, it's, and this is one of the things I just keep learning over and over again, is that like, not only is, like, it's one of those, the grass is greener where you water it, but like, happiness is is also fleeting, right? Like, you gotta be okay with being okay sometimes, and just relishing in some of those good moments. Like for the people wonder why bodybuilders, why they get so happy when they're at the gym, or why, not only endorphins and it's cathartic and everything else, but like, that's their thing, right? Like, they love doing it. It is the repetition. They're like, we are creatures of habit. The body loves what it likes. That's when we do things that are a little bit off. Like, we go to Disneyland, we go on vacation or whatever. Yeah, sure, that's super cool. But like, if you are always disliking your job, like you said, or doing things that aren't necessarily creating happy for you, I'm going to tell you, it's usually not the job. It's usually not where you live. It's usually something going on with yourself, and that's going to be a really hard realization. I don't want to go so far in on this that I lose a bunch of people here, but I definitely will say that I have figured out that success without fulfillment is a death trap. And it's like, so in other words, don't just do the show, don't just do the bodybuilding because of the glory or because of the accolades. Do it because it's what fills your cup and makes you feel good, and you go to sleep going, damn, I really enjoyed that.
Yep, you have to at the end of the day. And if you don't enjoy it, don't compete. I mean, I know this is a bodybuilding / fitness physique podcast, so and we are relating this episode to bodybuilding and competing and the lifestyle. And if you don't enjoy those things, don't compete, because competing and getting to those kind of body fat levels and doing those things and disrupting that homeostasis, that's a different level than just getting in shape and living healthy and happy.
Oh yes, yep.
If you don't
go ahead.
If you don't enjoy it, don't compete, because and I'm sure I know you have, because we've talked about it. I mean, how many people you've turned away from competing, and I have too, because I just know realistically, no matter how much brain training we do, it's just not a healthy thing for them to do. It's not a good option. It's not. And I know, hey, if they make it through this contest prep, which I'm sure they probably will, what they'll come out like on the other end is going to be worse off than what they started. And why? Why?
Yep, absolutely. And it's cool that we're recording this, because it isn't out yet, but I have a girl right now that is probably about 8 to 10 weeks out, and I've got her on the binoculars right now, because I asked her a couple questions, which again, it's never the answers you're given in life. It's always the questions, and that's what will lead me to almost all of my feedback and what I change or don't about someone's program. But I asked her, what were you expecting, or what did you know about competitions going into this? Because we're at 12 weeks out. She's doing 4 times a week of 30 minutes of cardio, and she's doing 4 times a week of about 45 minutes to an hour worth of weights. And she said, this is a lot for me. I feel like I'm in the gym nonstop. I feel like I'm doing nothing else. And I wrote that back. I said, we are 10 weeks out. What I want you to tell me what you expect the coming weeks to look like. Do you feel that they are going to get easier, going to get harder? And what she wrote back was, I just ended up talking to one of my friends that competes, and I haven't done this before. I didn't do a lot of research, and she said she's up to 2 hours of cardio a day at 3 weeks out. I think I get it a little bit now, and so I'm just waiting to see if that kind of helped her mindset or whatever. Because you said it, man. If it does not make you happy, and all of a sudden you are now like, let's say that's your threshold, 4 times a week of 30 minutes of cardio, 4 workouts a week of 45 minutes, and that is borderline unhappy for you. You do not want to be diving into a contest prep. that is, I will say that is definitive right there. And actually, she used a line that said, "I know I'm probably going to end up hating it in the coming weeks, so I'm just going to expect that." And I said right back, "No, if you are going in with the mind frame of I'm going to hate it," and also I said, "Why are we on earth to do things that we are paying for to hate?" I said, that's not it. That's absolute. That is the most. We were forced to go to grade school. We are not forced to do much else other than that, maybe jury duty. But this that you're paying for, that you want to do, and you think you already are going to hate it. What is the point? Take up painting. I like just this. If this is not going to make you happy and you're going to hate it, don't do it. That you got it. I've talked way more people out of shows than I know, and I will continue to do it because it's not going to be on my watch that they now hate the gym, they now hate life, and they say "F you, Mega Marty," because you're a jerk and never told me that.
Yeah, and I have clients that I'd say some of my best clients, and not best. I would say maybe longest term, most successful clients are probably not competitors. I have very successful competitors too, but I have a lady that she updated me this morning. She's been my client for like 6 years.
Awesome.
She's never competed. She's never competed. Why does she keep doing it? Because she freaking loves it, and and we're always working on something, and she's just fascinated with, improving in any way she can. We go through different phases, and she loves to experiment. Like, I do all kinds of stuff with her. She's kind of a guinea pig. I'll do different things. She's like, hey, I thought about this and this and this, and maybe she's feeling a little off. So we'll go through a health phase. We'll refresh her. We'll do a deload. We'll do all that stuff. I've done all kinds of different I call it hippie shit,
Yep.
with her, different recovery modalities and experimenting with things, all kinds of fasting protocols and just all kinds of wicked stuff. And she loves it. I mean, because she has no date and she's always improving, and she continuously gets better every year as far as her musculature. She looks better. Her body composition slowly improves. Her health is slowly improving. So she's making the physical progress, but she's like, I literally have no pressure. So guess what? If I'm not lean in my cutting phase next month, who cares?
Absolutely.
I'll be lean after that.
If anything, that's kind of akin to when people get engaged, they're fine when they get married. It's like, oh my God. So that would be like for her to get involved in contest prep, that might take the love away. So don't. You don't like. But and where it happened for a little bit up here. I don't know if it did down there for you, but like it was almost like if you trained and you looked good as a bikini girl, oh, you have to compete. It'd be an injustice if you didn't compete. It's like no. if you want to train because you look good and you feel good and you want to do whatever, I don't care if you don't even go to the beach, you just want to look great in a pair of pajamas, then that's it. Don't take that love away. Like I love that she's, that term long term, and I definitely have some of the best transformations, both psychologically, emotionally, and physically, that aren't competitors. Absolutely, you do not need to be a competitor to kick some very serious ass and not only that, but to enjoy it. I love that you said there's no pressure. Like that's the like some people, like even me, I do pretty good with pressure, but like if you let's go first full circle before we cut it here back to the video game analogy, is that they want to get better at the video games, they enjoy the video games, there's no pressure for them to play the video games, and so therefore they're going to continue to do it. And like you said, experiments, that's just different. Video games, like that's why on earth would you, again, just like I said about the last girl, take away something? Like, she obviously loved the gym too. A little bit more background story. She's been training 2, 3, 4 years, really likes the gym, and now I see the signs of the potential dislike of the gym. I'm not going to be the one to take that away. So it's one of those things that will say take a paycheck cut or a pay cut or whatever, or transition her into some form of off-season coaching or just lifestyle coaching, because I don't want that. But that's the thing too. That's a little bit of my ego there. But if she says no, I want to hate it, you know what? Maybe I'll say F it and we will go for it. But I will, of course, have protocols set up for her after the show and things like that. But I couldn't. I love your frigging example of that lady. She wants to try new things. She probably looks frigging great too. She probably has a good mind frame on her, and I bet you guys like have a great relationship. And like that's why I love coaching so damn much, man. You nailed it.
Yep, and I wish I could. She probably gets sick of me saying it, but I wish I could have 50 more clients just like that.
Oh, I know. I gotcha. Anything else from you, man, on this?
No, I mean, other than we could babble all day, but I think we,
yeah,
I think we, man,
this is
we
going
hit
to
on
be
some great stuff.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a great friggin' segue into the next one we do on social media and the ups and downs of that, because I'm pumped about that one, because I know I've got my stuff about that. I've got my pros and my cons, and I know you do too. So from Marty and Austin at the Mind Body Broadcast, we want you, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.